Rick, how are you?
I am very good, thank you. Very good, thanks for asking.
Before we talk about your new album, 50, let's go back a little bit to when you just began playing music.
Yeah.
You picked up the drums.
I did. Yeah, it's the first instrument that I really kind of played, I wouldn't even say properly, but played a lot, let's say. I've been in the church choir, been in the school choirs, always in school plays, always sang, you know, always, and loved singing. But I think for me, there's something about drums that's a bit primeval. There's something that's like, also because you don't actually have to go through the process of having to learn an instrument in the sense of like, well, I need to know chords to be able to get in a band. You can, I was really lucky that I managed to get on a drum kit and it just kind of, I mean, I'm not a great drummer, but it kind of happened straight away. And so it's like, right, I'm ready to go. You know, I can even sing and play drums, so I'm ready to go. And, but I still love the drums now, I still play, and I have a band with two friends who are, believe it or not, are actually older than I am. And we have like a midlife-crisis band where we play punk and rock covers. But we do it for charity, so that's okay.
What's the name of the band?
We're called the Luddites, which is, and the reason being is because that was a movement years and years and years ago where guys wanted to, the Industrial Revolution, they wanted to get back to just keeping things simple and no technology basically to keep their jobs. So they didn't like the idea of technology moving in. And our stance is that if you can't play it with a guitar, bass, drums and no technology after that, then we don't play it.
So with that in mind then, how do you perceive the current musical industry or the musical landscape?
I mean, I think obviously when I got into a band when I was a kid, we were coming out of, or we were out of punk already really. But punk had definitely left its mark in the sense that any bunch of kids can get in a room and kind of make a noise that sounds a little bit like a record you've heard. And up until that point, it was hard. You really had to be a decent musician, I think, to kind of play a lot of stuff that you'd grown up with. Whereas, and actually some punk records are pretty amazing actually, and there's some really good playing. But chord-wise and stuff, you could do it. You could actually get in a room and make that noise, you know. And I think that when I go back to those days, in certain ways, we've still got some of that now. Because certain dance records that are really big crossover records and stuff, I'm not saying they're punk, obviously, but there's something about certain kinds of electronic music, dance music, what have you, that's pretty simple and basic, but it grabs you. It's earthy, you know what I mean? And it's something that almost people have taken control of again, if you like. You don't have to be an incredible musician with an amazing producer, and you can do it on a laptop. So in a way, it's kind of come round again, I think, you know.
So it's more accessible in a way?
Yeah, in a way, yeah, because, you know, people can get on a computer and an hour later they've built a track together and they can just sing on it through the mic of the computer and make, you know what I mean? It's a strange way that in a way all that technology has brought it back to basics almost, you know. So.
And well, you say for you yourself, you prefer to play instruments?
I mean, listen, I've been around a lot of really good players in my life, and I still really admire musicianship, you know, because I think there's a lot of things in life to admire when someone's actually made that their craft and what they do. And that could be someone who, you know, makes shoes, it could be someone who builds walls, it could be, you know, or it's a musician. And obviously I've spent a lot of my time around musicians, and I really, I'd like to emulate what some of those guys can do. I can't, but I do what I can do. And so when I now, you know, get to a point where I'm making a record like this record, it's as good as it can be, with the limitations, with the fact that I've played everything.
Yeah.
But I really like that. You know, I think sometimes certain bands are not the best players in the world, but they make a sound that's unique to them, and it's only they could do it. You know, so.
So is this why you decided to play all the instruments yourself? So it is you?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to feel that it was my record, I think. I mean, I wasn't even making a record in the first place. I was just kind of writing some songs and doing some demos. A couple of my friends that I really respect, who are big songwriters and producers, really loved it. And I could feel that they meant it. They really loved it. And that gave me a bit of confidence, I think. Because I respect them, you know, they write hit records, you know. And then also the thing with Facebook, Twitter, any social media, you do a gig, and I do lots of gigs these days, and I sing my old songs, you know, and I throw a, you know, whatever cover in or things that I want to do, and people come to the gig. I put something on Facebook, and they respond to it. So they will say, "We like your old stuff, but please play us some new ones, write some new ones." And I think without that, I perhaps wouldn't have the confidence to make a record, because it's like your own audience has already said to you, make a new one, you know. And so in lots of ways, that's made me feel comfortable enough to do it, I think.
And you say you didn't have an album in mind when you started writing the song. So were you always writing, even because there were two periods where you kind of...
Yeah, I mean, I've had studios at home, and I always mess around with music and stuff, and I've probably got a bunch of songs that I'll never really play to an audience or a wide, because they're just fun things that I wanted to do, or loads of things I haven't finished, and just stuff like that. And also because I think there was a time, going back a long time, when I kind of finished with my own career and retired sort of thing, I kind of wanted to be a producer and writer for other people. And I think just after trying to do that for a couple of years, I think the penny dropped, and I kind of realised that, for one, it's a slightly different talent. You know, writing a song that you're going to sing is one thing, but writing a song someone else is going to sing, there's a real craft to that. It's a skill. It's something that you have to work at over and over, unless you get lucky and you write one that just works. If you've got to write a song for who is the latest, you know, whatever, superstar, what have you, I think it's quite tough, because there's certain parameters. You know, there's certain building blocks that you've got to use to fit that artist, you know, and that is a real skill. I think it's not that easy.
Do you take, because like you say, you wrote a lot of music for other people, do you take away elements from that separate type of songwriting to your own work then?
Well, I think for me, you know, when I sit at the piano or pick the guitar up, I've got limitations in what I can play, simple as that. And ironically, I think that's led me to do a few things that I love anyway, things that are a little bit gospel influenced, because even though there's some amazing musicians who work in that gospel world, and in even like church choirs and stuff, you know, some of the arrangements and the whatever are just phenomenal. So there's a real skill and technique in that. But I think when you go back to a lot of the old traditional gospel songs that then filtered into perhaps black American music just generally, if you like, quite often it's fairly simple, or at least you're led to, it makes you believe it's simple. And some of the structures and chords and stuff are pretty simple, but that then allows an amazing melody to go over it, you know what I mean? Because it's not always about some really hip jazz chords and this, that and the other. It's simple stuff, you know. And I can play simple stuff.
and well, you mentioned the choir in the beginning, so this gospel tradition, is that where your heart lies with gospel soul?
I don't know where it's specifically where my heart lies, but I think I just respond to people singing, and if it's a group of people, or a solo artist, you know, it can have the same effect, definitely. But I think when you're in a room with a bunch of people, I did a thing the other night in London with a band called Naturally Seven, which is a vocal harmony group, but they do like more traditional harmony singing together, obviously, and they are amazing, like just unbelievable. But they also do a thing where one of the guys is the drummer, one of the guys is the bass player, one of the guys, and they take instruments, and then they'll have, you know, different ones will sing different songs. And it's just incredible. If you close your eyes, you're in a room with a bunch of musicians. It's amazing what they do, and it's literally just with their voices. So I got the chance to sing with them and sing this new song called Keep Singing with them. And we did a little rehearsal in the dressing room, tiny little room, and it was amazing. And again, you kind of remember what the very ground basic thing of music is. It's human beings making a noise together somehow, and when that happens, it just moves me. And I think when it happens definitely more from a vocal point of view, it's just something that I've always responded to, I think.